What's going on, boys and girls of all ages? Welcome back to my channel. Yours truly, Eddie Jeezy. For this afternoon's topic, let's talk about the top 10 NBA teams most likely to win the 2020 NBA Finals. This article is being brought to you by Harrison Graham from Chat Sports. So without any further ado, let's talk about coming in at number 10. Starting at number 10 is the Portland Trail Blazers. Of course, they finished third in the Western Conference last season, had a sort of breakthrough when they made their conference finals. Of course, they got swept by the Golden State Warriors. They added Hassan Whiteside in that trade, got Mario Hezonja, Pau Gasol, fairly quiet offseason. They lost Seth Curry, Al-Farouq Aminu. I actually think they got a little bit worse overall because they didn't really add anyone special, especially losing Seth Curry in shooting. That's going to be a big deal. So they come in at number 10 for me of NBA title contenders. Of course, it's all about Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum when it comes to the Blazers. We know about the production. They can both score at will. They dish it out a little bit. Good three-point shooters. The problem typically with these guys is on the defensive end. And as a whole, Damian and CJ are going to do their thing, but are they going to get enough help from the rest of this Blazers roster? Again, Damian and CJ in the backcourt, Rodney Hood, Nurkic, and then Zach Collins maybe takes another step. And so overall, I don't love this roster. You got a great backcourt, but is it enough to get over the top in the NBA? I'm not so sure. That's why I have them down at number 10. They're really fun to play with, but I don't think it's enough. Moving on to the number 9 spot that can win the 2020 NBA Finals. What about the Boston Celtics? I got them coming in at number 9. They're having an up and down year last year. Kyrie Irving was kind of like a mess. They finished 4th in the Eastern Conference before getting waxed by the Milwaukee Bucks in the second round. They lost Kyrie, but they brought in Kemba, and they signed Enes Kanter for that mid-level exception. They also lost Al Horford, would be a bigger thing than people think. Overall, it's hard to say if it's a net positive or negative. On the surface, it looks like they lost more than they gained, but remember a couple years ago, those youngsters played real well in the playoffs without Kyrie. So now you bring in a guy like Kemba Walker. His production, maybe overall, it is a net positive in the end. But we got to see how this Celtics team play when they get out there. It might take some time to get this group together and to get on track, but a big thing to look out for is that their starting lineup. You got Gordon Hayward. Boston believes that he's going to be closer to Utah Gordon Hayward than what we saw last year now that he's over a year removed from the injury. We saw flashes at the end of the year. If Tatum and Brown can take that next step, you still got Smart coming off the bench. If Hayward can be the all-star type player like a few years ago, the Celtics team will contend in the Eastern Conference. So moving on to team number 8, we have the Utah Jazz. I'm a little high on the Jazz, to be honest with you, than most of the people are, but it's a competitive league this year. So I still got them down at number 8. They finished 5th in the West last season, of course, and I believe they got better. You plugged in Mike Conley as Ricky Rubio leaves. That's a good enough upgrade. You get Bogdanovich, which is an upgrade. Yeah, you lost Kyle Korver, Derek Favors. I mentioned Rubio, but your end bench pieces like Jeff Green, Emmanuel Mudiay, and Ed Davis. This is a deep and competitive roster. You don't have the star power, but you got a very deep team. And Mike Conley being the key guy that you got this offseason, traded for him, of course. Widely known as maybe the best player in the league who has never gone to an all-star game. You see the production, 21.6 assists, good three-point shooter. I think this Utah team is a sleeper to win the 2020 NBA Finals. Also, I mentioned his shooting, Bojan Bogdanovic. You add him as well. This team needed shooting, especially when they lost Kyle Korver. And he's not just a three-point shooting. He scored 18 points per game in Indiana last year. This guy's going to help space the floor in this Jazz lineup. I think he plugs in and play that stretch 4 position, which you add defensively. It's going to be challenging to a lot of teams. But when you have Rudy Gobert playing center, that's okay. He's the best rim protector in the league. Did I mention the depth? Mudiay, excellent. Jeff Green, Davis, all these guys coming off the bench. This team goes about very deep, 9 deep. Not a lot of contenders can say that. Most of the teams are loaded 4 to 5 core, and their bench don't look that good. But that is not the case with the Utah Jazz. So let's keep things rolling here. We got the Houston Rockets coming in number 7. I'm not sold on this Russell Westbrook, James Harden think it's going to work. That's why I got him a little lower. Of course, lost to the Warriors, second round last year, fourth straight year eliminated by the Warriors. Daryl Morey, they want to spice up things in Houston, so they trade in for Russell Westbrook. Obviously, is what they got. Obviously, they got rid of Chris Paul. They gave them a couple first-round picks, couple of pick swaps to team up with Russell Westbrook and James Harden. Of course, they played together back in OKC 6 or 7 years ago. But their production is going to be good. I'm not denying that. They have a combined of 60 points last season. They're probably two of the best triple-double threats in the NBA, especially when you consider Russell Westbrook, his average for the last 3 seasons. But Westbrook does not fit this three-point shooting system that Mike D'Antoni likes to implement. So he's going to have to adjust that. And if you look at that lineup, Harden can shoot, Gordon can shoot, Tucker is a good corner three, but not a whole lot of shooting. It was worth the risk for the Rockets. I just don't think they're going to go from a second-round type of team to necessarily winning the title. That's why I got them at number 7 on my list. My expectations, I think this is a second-round type of team, maybe the conference finals if everything goes right. But I want to ask you guys, what do you think the Rockets' expectations be next season? Is this title or bust? I think for your answer, if it's a championship, I think you're being unrealistic. Okay, I don't think it's going to work in the end, but I got them down at number 7. But feel free to comment if you want to go ahead and comment on the Rockets' expectations. Moving forward to number 6, the Denver Nuggets breakout season last year. Finished second in the West before losing that heartbreaking 7-game series to Portland Trail Blazers in the second round. Quite an off-season overall. They kind of re-signed some guys. They brought back Paul Millsap, and they traded for Jeremy Grant, which was a sneaky, great move for them. They added a defensive player who can shoot a little bit as well, so I like that move overall. Pretty quiet there. This team goes as Nikola Jokic goes. His last 4 seasons, you see the progression. As a rookie, he was 10-7. Second-year player, 16-10. 2 years ago, 18-10. And then last year, 20, 11, and over 7 assists. And it kind of reflects on how the Nuggets' last 5 years has gone. As he improves, the Nuggets has improved. 30 wins 5 years ago. They jump up to 33, and they played 500 Bowl. And then 2 years ago, they got to the last night of the season before they were eliminated from the playoffs. But then again, I mentioned it earlier, they were able to break through in 2019 when they won 54 games, good for second in the West. And Jokic has great pieces around him. He's got emerging young stars in Jamal Murray as a point guard. I look at him to take another step as a point guard. Can Gary Harris be that next player? He needs to improve on his three-point shooting. Paul Millsap is good. Will Barton can score. We'll see if Michael Porter Jr. can score off the bench. I like Malik Beasley coming off the bench. This is kind of like the Jazz, That's what the Denver is, but they do have a lot of depth. They brought back their core. This is how you deal with it if you're a small market team. I got these guys at number 6. Moving into the number 5 spot, we got the Golden State Warriors. They are the biggest wild card on this list because I believe they are fully capable of winning the 2020 championship. But at the moment, we just don't know because there's too many things. Klay Thompson, when is he coming back? You lost KD. How's D'Angelo Russell going to incorporate into this wonderful offense? I believe Steph Curry is going to have a monster season, but you also lost KD. You lost DeMarcus Cousins. Boogie didn't do a whole lot last year, of course. The last 5 NBA Finals. It's always championship robust in Golden State. You also see the production difference as you lose KD and you bring in D'Angelo Russell. Obviously, I'm not saying D'Lo's going to replace KD. No one's saying that, but it's enough to keep them in the playoff contention until Klay Thompson comes back. And if Klay comes back and this group can gel together, I think this team can eventually make a run for the championship. And I think Steph Curry has a huge chance of winning his 3rd MVP. He's going to have to carry the rest of the load. KD and Klay average about 48 points. Neither one of those guys are going to be there. Klay Thompson is going to miss over half his season at least. So Steph Curry is going to take a lot of shots. The only person I have ahead of him on MVP voting would be Giannis Antetokounmpo. But I think the Warriors are going to be just fine. Let's check the lineup. We got Steph Curry, And then we got D'Lo. We plugged in Jordan Poole. And then we got Willie Cauley-Stein will start as center. And then we got Draymond Green. But this is what it's going to look like. They're going to make a championship run. You got Curry, D'Lo, Klay Thompson, Cauley-Stein, Draymond Green, and Kevon Looney coming in from the bench. So they got some firepower. It's not quite like the Lakers' star power. Or you don't have Iggy, you don't have Livingston, but there's still enough firepower if this team gets healthy to win a title in 2020. Moving on to the number 4 spot, we got the Philadelphia 76ers. Is the process working with Joel Embiid? Is it truly working? They finished third in the East last season. They lost in the second round with the Toronto Raptors. But remember, they're the only team that's able to take the Toronto Raptors to the 7 games that lost on a shot by Kawhi Leonard that hit the rim about 4 times. They were very close to advancing to the Eastern Conference Finals. I just hate the fact that they lost Jimmy Butler, they lost J.J. Redick, but it's okay. At least they brought back Tobias Harris. They signed Al Horford, plus Kawhi leaving the East. I believe Philly will be a top 3 team in the Eastern Conference. I mean, what do you want to do? Are we still trusting the process or what? I mean, 5 years ago, very slow process, in my opinion, to become a competitive team. Last year, they won like 50-plus games and very close to Eastern Conference Finals. I believe this is the big year for 76ers, as well as a big year for Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. I think Ben Simmons has a lot to prove. If he can develop that jump shot, I mean, I think I made more threes than this dude in high school. For real. Yeah, go to St. Lorenzo Ruiz Academy. I'll be in them threes on the corner. That's my favorite spot. Yep. But, you know, if these guys are healthy, I believe Embiid and Simmons will be great. Unfortunately, Simmons can't shoot. He needs to improve on that exact field, the shooting field, all right? If you can do that, Ben Simmons, if you can average about 40%, you'll be a hard man to guard. You'll be a very bad man in the NBA. A point guard who is 6'10", taller than Magic Mountain, has got a great court vision. You got to learn how to shoot. Otherwise, they might trade you for Chris Paul. Bring in Chris Paul so they can... So coming in at number 3, I got my Los Angeles Lakers. They're my number 3 team. Did not make the playoff last season, as we all know. They did do that blockbuster trade to land Anthony Davis, kind of like the first domino to fall before free agency. He had added several vets to fill out the roster after they missed out on Kawhi Leonard. I like what the Lakers are doing. Obviously, if they would have got Kawhi, they would have been my number 1 team, obviously. But if you look at that trade, obviously, whenever you get a superstar, you win the trade. That's what happened here. You got Anthony Davis to L.A. Obviously, the Pelicans got Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, and 3 first-round picks. But Anthony Davis and LeBron is probably the best dynamic duo in the league right now, in the whole NBA. So the question is, would the supporting cast be good around them? They added some key pieces as we speak. They got Danny Green, Avery Bradley, Boogie Cousins. Big wild card for them. Is he going to be the all-star Boogie, or is he going to be the guy who's always hurt now? Big question mark there. They brought back Rondo. They brought back KCP. KCP can shoot a little bit. Rondo can run that second unit. For veterans, they brought back Jared Dudley, a good defender, guy who's been on some contending teams in the past. Quinn Cook is an excellent shooter. JaVale McGee quietly had a great season last year. Troy Daniels, Alex Caruso, he can shoot a little bit. Alex Caruso can create as well. Again, the starting 5, I think it'll look like this. LeBron, Danny Green in the backcourt. We'll have Caldwell Pope and Anthony Davis and Kyle Kuzma. That would be the Lakers' current lineup. But we need Kuzma to be a legitimate third option. Right now, I got KCP plug in there. As you can see, it's interchangeable. They can play big or start DeMarcus Cousins if they want to play big. But I got the Lakers as my number 3 team to win a title in 2020. Milwaukee Bucks, I got them coming in at number 2. Won the Eastern Conference regular season last year. Lost in the conference finals after getting a 2-0 lead on Kawhi and the Raptors. That was certainly a disappointment, but they should firmly be in the mix again with Kawhi Leonard leaving the Toronto Raptors. I believe this is the team to beat in the East. I don't necessarily think that Milwaukee is the second best team in the NBA, but considering the route they'll have to take versus any team in the West, I got them at number 2. If you bring in Kyle Korver, you bring in Wes Matthews, Robin Lopez, Re-signed a big core. And then look at these three guys that they brought back: Chris Middleton, Brook Lopez, George Hill. George Hill played better than Eric Bledsoe in the playoff last year. He's played in a lot of playoff series. That's a key re-signing for them as well. You lost Malcolm Brogdon, but otherwise you kept this core intact. And you got the MVP, Giannis, 28, 13, 6. The three-point percentages, right now he's at 25.6. If that ever becomes respectable, around 38%, he's arguably going to be one of the most dominant player in the NBA. I like this lineup for the Bucks. It's deep. It's got a nice bench. I like the veterans they brought in, as I mentioned. I like the starting five. They can play with most. I'm not sure if Ilyasova would start. Maybe he'll play a little bit smaller, but Giannis is going to be a threat to win the MVP again. I think this team certainly wins the East and makes the finals next season. All right, here it is. Coming in number one, Clippers. The Los Angeles Clippers finished 8th last season. We all know what they did this offseason. They got Kawhi Leonard. They traded for Paul George. Sure, you lost Gallinari. You lost Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But when you bring in the top two players in the NBA, you're going to be in contention, and I think the front runner to win the 2020 NBA championship. If you look back at that trade for Paul George, yeah, that's a lot, but you probably traded for Kawhi as well. That was the thought process there. You gave up 5 first-round picks, Danilo Gallinari, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but that's what you do when you're trying to contend for championship, and that's what the Clippers are doing. Obviously, Kawhi, Paul George are going to be the two superstars for the Clippers. They're going to average about 55 points combined, probably. They're kind of rebound a lot. They're going to play good defense, and that's the main reason why I like this Clippers team. Not just the star power, not just the name. They're going to be a really good defensive team. You get the best defensive guard in the NBA, Pat Beverly. Shamit's a good defender, as a nice young player. Zubac can play defense and rebound. And then that bench is loaded. I mean, you got Lou Williams, Montrezl Harrell. Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell, that right there is one of the best six-man duo. This is what crunch time lineup will look like. You got Patrick Beverly, Lou Williams, Kawhi Leonard, Montrezl Harrell, and Paul George. Wow, that's going to be bananas. That's almost impossible to beat, right? But that's why the Clippers are the number one team to win the championship in 2020 out of the 10 teams. These are just the facts. They got better bench, better role players. So good luck to the Los Angeles Lakers. And if they do win, no hard feelings. They do deserve to win it. Still Laker town. Thank you so much for tuning in. God bless, peace, and we are out.